Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat at welcome po muli sa isa na namang edisyon ng Katribu Legal Diaries. Ako po si Elmer Navarro Manuel at ang topic natin ngayong araw na to ay tungkol sa deed of sale ng mga real properties. Alright, at para ipaliwanag sa atin kung ano nga ba itong deed of sale na to at saka ano ba yung mga real properties na pag-uusapan natin ngayong araw na to, kasama natin syempre ang Associate Lawyer ng Aranas Cruz, Araneta, Parker, and Faustino Law Offices na si Attorney Alfred Campagnano. Attorney, good afternoon po.
Good afternoon, Sir Elmer.
Alright. Okay, kamusta naman, Attorney? Happy Friday ba o TGIF na ba?
Naka-MECQ eh.
Ay, oo nga.
Wala masyadong TGIF.
Tama. Dapat nga, total, lahat naman ng mga manginginom ngayon eh, hindi nagkaka-COVID. Dapat yung mga buksan eh.
Ay, hindi. Diba? Tinarify yan eh, ng CDC, I think, na misconception yan na uminom ng alcohol eh.
Hindi nagkaka-COVID yung mga manginginom. Okay. Alright, Attorney. Okay, pag-usapan natin ngayon, Attorney, yung tungkol sa deed of sale ng mga real property. So, siguro, ang unang-unang tanong natin dito, ano ba yung tinatawag na deed of sale sa isang real property?
Pag sabing deed of sale of real property, normally, in layman, you're referring to the document itself.
Okay.
So yun yung document where the parties sign. So under Article 1458, however, of the Civil Code, dito dinidefine what is a contract of sale. Na kung saan, I'll read it out loud. Sabi dito is, basically, it's one of the contracting parties obligates himself to transfer ownership of a determinate thing, and the other party to pay therefore a price certain in money or its equivalent.
Okay.
So, what is more important here is what is the concept of sale for everyone. So, to me, I think I'd like to highlight three important things.
Okay.
Three important things here. First is transfer of ownership. So, I think I think we have a common understanding here na you have to be the owner. Kasi alam mo naman, kunwari, yung sasakyan mo, Sir Elmer, binibenta ko.
Oo.
That's the kid.
Ako may-ari, pero ikaw nagbibenta, no?
Oo. So parang, I cannot dispose of that because I don't have the ownership. Kasi basically, what you're selling really is, or what you're transferring is not just the object, but also yung ownership mo to it.
Yung ownership.
And under the law, as an owner, you can do whatever you want with it. You can sell it, use it, lease it if you want, etc. Next is, it has to be over a determinate thing. So, pag sinabi mo determinate thing, it should be separated or distinguishable from others in the same class. So, going back to the topic at hand, so, it's a sale of real property. Siyempre, kaya dito papasok yung importance ng titles. No?
Okay.
Kasi in the titles, yung mga certificate of titles, whether mapakondo yan or in this case, or often than not, is parcels of land.
Okay.
Then makikita mo dyan yung technical descriptions. Right? Na parang separated in the northwest, bound by, and then sabihin na ganito. Tapos ito yung area. So meaning, it's a determinate already. Kasi you're not referring to a parcel of land in QC. You're referring to this particular parcel of land, for example. So it's determinate things. Tapos, what else? It has to be for a consideration.
Okay.
Kasi remember, this is a contract. And that consideration is in money or its equivalent. Now, pag sabi, under the law, it says money or its equivalent. It does not mean na when you pay something in kind, that's a sale. There's different. So meaning, for example, bumibili ka ng lupa, binigyan kita ng ballpen in exchange for it. Sabihin natin, pumayag ka doon. Then, that's not really sale.
Okay.
Or that's barter. So, kaya ko lang dinidistinguish kasi may mga specific rules yan. But, pag sinabi mong money or its equivalent, so ano ba ang mga naiisip natin na equivalent ng money? So, for example, a good example would be yung mga checks.
Okay.
Na issue ka ng cheque. So, that's an equivalent. Kasi technically, it will supposedly, it will become cash.
It's unless, as good as cash pa.
Yan. So, nag-BP22 na yan, di ba? That's a different issue. Or yung mga letters of credit, yung mga ini-endorse mo. So, parang meaning, it's equivalent in cash. So, ganun yung ibig natin sabihin dyan by, a deed of sale or a contract of sale.
Alright. Attorney, pwede bang mangyari na meron kang hawak na deed of sale, pero gaya nung sinabi mo kanina, let's say, doon sa parcel of land, wala sa'yo yung titulo. So, sino pa rin yung may-ari?
Now, pag wala sa iyo yung title, again, the general principle is you have to be the owner in order to sell a specific property. May Latin yan parang Nemo, something.
Okay.
But I'm not gonna bore you with the Latin there. Parang the idea here is you cannot sell, you cannot dispose what you do not own. Diba? So, in your question, is it possible to sell a property that the title is not under your name? As a general rule, no.
Okay.
But ibang usapan yan if you are holding that property as an agent of the owner, then that's a different discussion. No?
Middleman, iba yung discussion sa middleman, kumbaga.
Oo, may middleman ka. So meaning hindi sa kanya nakapangalan yung title, but pwedeng i-dispose, pwedeng ma-sell. Because technically, dahil may agent yung owner of the parcel of land, then ultimately, it is as if the owner is the one who's selling it. Anyway, kasi agent lang naman siya. Basically, it's an extension of the personality of the owner.
Okay. Alter ego, kumbaga, attorney,
Yeah, in a way, no? Alter ego.
Okay. Alright, ito, attorney, lahat ba dapat ng mga properties na ibibenta, meron ba dapat deed of sale? O pwedeng verbal na lang, bilhin ko sa'yo yan, ito, kaliwaan tayo. Akin yung titulo, ito yung pera, yung deed of sale, mo na, total, nag-usap na tayo, basta akin na yan. Pwede ba yung ganun?
Pag sinabi mo kasing lahat ng properties, then the answer there is no. Because there are different classifications of property under civil law, no? But the most common classification would be yung tinatawag na personal properties or your real properties. So personal properties or your movable properties. Yeah, ballpen, cellphone,
kotse,
di ba? Papel. So all of these things, no? Or even the fact na bumili ka lang sa sari-sari store, that is basically a sale in itself. So in those situations, would you really need a contract of sale or a deed of sale? Rather, no na. Because that's more of a practical consideration. Isipin mo, bumili yung anak mo, pinautosan bumili ng suka.
Oo nga.
Tapos meron pa bilang kailangan may deed of sale.
May dala-dalang folder, tapos.
Kasi, di ba?
Papipirmahan doon sa tindera, Teka, bibili ako ng suka.
Panotaryo natin, di ba? Strictly speaking, it would be ideal na meron. Pero of course, there are practical considerations din, especially in these kinds of transactions. So more often than not, yung mga deeds of sales mo are seen kasi syempre kung saan magkakaroon talaga ng issue. So for example, this topic, deeds of sale of real property. Kasi syempre if hindi yan nakalagay sa kasulatan, pwedeng maraming interpretation, and we know that land or a parcel of land is actually a very valuable asset. So makikita mo rin yan sa purchases of condo. Kasi hindi ka lang naman parang bumili ng candy when you buy a condominium unit. Right? Or even yung motor vehicles mo. Na kung saan yung bumili ka ng sasakyan, bumili ka ng truck or ng motorcycle. So, these are properties of high value. Diyan mo normally makikita ang importance ng deeds of sale. Because the parties should be assured of the terms and conditions to which they agreed upon.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it will really be a source of controversy.
Oo.
And all people who wants to acquire property does not want that kind of controversy.
Mhm.
Diba? Gusto mo nga sana as much as possible, malinis
Oo.
ang benta.
Tama. Malinis yung transaksyon. So, parang kaliwaan talaga. O, ito yung pera ko, akin na yung deed of sale, tsaka akin na yung parang patunay na ako na yung may-ari nitong bagay na to or itong lupa na to. Pero for high value properties lang talaga, mas applicable ang deed of sale.
Kung gusto talaga ng sari-sari store, diba, na
Hindi, di ba,
siya ng
attorney,
deed of
parang
sale
ano rin
na.
yan eh. Parang yan din yung resibo, di ba?
In fact, in those kinds of transactions, again, that's why I want to distinguish din, no?
Mhm.
Under the civil law, yung parang sinasabi ng contract of sale, please note that if you open the book on civil law, or basically your civil code of the Philippines, pag sinabi niyang contract, it does not necessarily refer to the deed itself.
Mhm.
Kasi nga, there are certain transactions, certain contracts that need not have a formal document to say that that is indeed the contract.
Mhm.
So, for example, tama ka, Sir Elmer, no? Yung receipt. The fact pa lang that you were issued a receipt is already evidence that there was indeed a sale.
Mhm.
Kasi syempre, yun, nakalagay doon yung price.
Oo, price.
Nandun yung price, nandun yung the
Item.
determinate thing or the
Mhm.
property na binibenta, and then nandun din yung kung sino yung nagbenta.
Mhm. So, ibig sabihin talagang yun na, yung patunay na itong bagay na kinuha mo, binayaran mo ng pera, sa'yo na to kasi nasa iyo yung resibo. Okay. Attorney, magbe-break muna tayo saglit tapos pagbalik natin medyo mag-ano tayo ng mga sitwasyon dito, mga kaugnayan dito sa mga deed of sale na to. So, wag po kayong aalis at babalik po muli ang Kalingang Katribu Legal Diaries.
Magpabakura kayo.
This public service advisory is brought to you by Daily Tribune and 100.3 RJFM.
Magandang araw mga katribu! Narito na ang mga makakasama nyo tuwing umaga sa programang Gising Na. Roy Pelovelo, Comfy Manalo, Chinky Mangkukang, Vernon Velasco, Kim Sancha at Chirk Balagtas. Abangan ang programang Gising Na mula alas 8 hanggang alas 9 ng umaga sa Facebook page ng Daily Tribune.
Ilabas ng mainit na kape at samahan kami sa inyong pag-almusal, mga katribo.
Sama-sama natin alamin ang mga natatagong istorya sa mga latest na kaganapan sa loob at labas ng bansa.
Simulan ang bawat umaga with good vibes sa mga informative and recreational segments dito sa ating programa.
Maaari niyo rin ibahagi sa amin ang inyong opinion via Daily Tribune Facebook page at Tribune Now sa YouTube.
Makichika na rin sa latest showbiz happenings, mga katribo.
Kaya naman, magkita-kita po tayo mula Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 8 hanggang alas 9 ng umaga at magsama-sama po tayo sa
Gising Na!
Magpabakura kayo.
Nagbabalik pong muli ang Kalingang Katribu Legal Diaries at syempre kasama pa rin natin si Attorney Alfred Campañaro para pag-usapan ang tungkol sa deed of sale. Alright, Attorney, ito, yung mga susunod na tanong dito parang situationer to eh. Ito, sabi dito, may nagbenta raw ng lupa niya at yung nagbenta ng lupa niya ay may special power of attorney daw na galing sa kanya. Kahit wala naman siyang binibigay na pahintulot o authorization na ibenta yung bahay saka lupa. Yung bahay at lupa ay naibenta ng 1.5 million nang hindi niya alam at wala rin sa kanya yung pera. So, ano ba to, attorney? Para to yung old school na na modus dati nung mga 70s yata o 80s, yung papasukin yung bahay tapos itatali yung mga may-ari, yung mga katulong. Tapos kunwari ipapasubasta yung loob ng bahay na parang kanya. O ito, binibenta ko to, parang ganun. Baka di ganito rin yung nangyari dito.
So, sige. So, dun sa problem na yan, no?
Mhm.
Actually, when it comes to these situations, always a matter of circumstances.
Mhm.
So, let's try to address yung problem as it is. Ngayon, in that situation, di ba may SPA?
Mhm.
Point blank, pwede mo sabihin na, for example, ikaw yung may-ari ng lupa. Tapos ako yung nagpamukha na I made it appear I was an agent
Mhm.
I was your agent. And then syempre may SPA yan, may duly notarized SPA. It can be argued na if I sell that to another person, say si person A,
Mhm.
then person A may be considered as a buyer in good faith. So ang habol mo na lang, Sir Elmer, is sa akin talaga.
Okay.
So that is that's one aspect na pwede nating itignan. Now, why am I saying it's always a situational matter? Because kung titignan mo in that problem, as it is, pwedeng sabihin talaga na when can you say that a buyer is in good faith?
Mhm.
No? So doon papasok yung situations. Now, several jurisprudence had already discussed na if the SPA is on its is a duly notarized special power of attorney,
Mhm.
then the diligence required from a buyer to be considered as a buyer in good faith is to simply check the SPA
Mhm.
if it's materially complete. So, dapat nandoon yung proper acknowledgement.
Mhm.
There was para dapat tama yung proof of competent evidence of identity.
Mhm.
Nandun na in the SPA itself, siguro specified dapat yung authorities, who is the person, who is the agent, who is the principal. So if it's really duly notarized, as it is, then as the buyer, si person A in our problem, may actually rely on the face of the SPA and may argue that he is a buyer in good faith. But if the SPA contains parang improper acknowledgement or there is no SPA at all, or parang there are certain facts that would have put him in notice na hindi naman pala yan agent
Mhm.
nung principal, then he is no longer a buyer in good faith, and as such, pwede mo mapa-annul yung contract of sale. So it's really a matter of trying to establish it's really a matter of trying to establish whether the buyer actually knew na hindi naman pala talaga siya agent.
Oo.
Kasi if hindi talaga siya agent or there are certain irregularities in the representation of the said agent, no? And he is bound by law to inquire further and check. Diba? And check yung authority ng tao na yan. And he is supposed to go beyond the SPA.
Mhm.
So it's really a matter of advocacy. So if you're facing these kinds of issues, it's always good to first be upfront with your lawyers so that they can properly advise you. And hindi. First advice is to talk to a lawyer.
Syempre. Oo,
And
tama.
second is be upfront with the lawyer so that they can properly advise you on these things. No. What other argument that you can explore, but again, it's up to the courts to appreciate that based on evidence, is to also check the concept na void yung SPA eh.
Mhm.
So technically, even if it is duly notarized, parang one may argue na the fact that there was no SPA at all, technically speaking, because hindi nga niya talaga in-execute yung SPA na yun,
Oo.
then pwede mo i-argue that there was indeed no sale to begin with. Kasi again, the principle that the owners are the only ones who are allowed to dispose of the property. But again, papasok na naman ang situations dyan. So it's really a matter of looking into the case at hand and talking to your lawyers about it.
Tama. Kasi dito yung follow-up question dito. Mukhang may pinakitang deed of sale sa kanya para dun sa sinasabing bentahan ng bahay at lupa niya, pero hindi nga niya binebenta. Pero merong pinapakitang deed of sale sa kanya na iba na yung may-ari.
Pero dito rin yan eh. Parang
Diba?
dito rin papasok yung diligence of an owner as well. Kasi while it may look bleak, no, na kung saan, kasi nga if matalino yung nagpo-forge, no, and the
Oo.
SPA indeed materially complete on its face, then it's up to the owner in this case to really be diligent in monitoring the property. So hindi lang yung so it also works hand in hand na the law will try to protect you as much as possible, but you must also take extra steps to protect your ownership as well.
Mhm.
So wag mo lang ilagay yan sa bodega mo or sa vault mo. You every now and then you should check
Mhm.
na ano na ba ang status niya, kasi baka naman na ililipat na pala under the name of another person.
Okay.
That's a different issue.
Tama kung siguro nakakita ka na ng ganito, attorney, sa mga labas-labas, no, this property is not for sale. Yan. Yung mga malalaking
mga
lupa,
ganon, diba?
talagang nilalagay ng ganun.
May mga ganun na siya agad.
Kasi,
Those are precautionary steps on the part of the owner to prevent or pangunahan na eh. So pinapangunahan mo na baka naman may kasi syempre titingnan din niya yung property. Right? Sa problem kasi we're assuming things, no? In the problem or in the question, ina-assume lang natin. Na with the facts given na may SPA, we are assuming na natingnan niya yung property, he did everything what he can, and we assume na from the problem na wala talaga siyang makita that would put any question on the authority or capacity of the said agent to transfer the property. So, baka bumagsak siya as a buyer in good faith. And as such, hindi mo pwedeng buyer in good faith and for value. So, as such, mahihirapan ka ng bawiin yung property.
Oo. Magkakaproblema ka ngayon dyan kahit wala kang authorization na ibenta. Kung talagang merong mga matitinong dokumento na nagpapatunay na naibenta nga o nagkaroon talaga ng bentahan, nasa sayo na yan kung paano mo ilalaban yan sa korte. Alright, attorney.
An owner is diligent enough there are ways for him or her to prevent these kinds of So it's really dapat may konting proactiveness din on the part of the owner.
Tama. Okay. Attorney, magbe-break muna tayo saglit. Pagbalik natin, doon ulit tayo sa ating segment na Tribunal. So, wag po kayong alis at babalik po muli ang Kalingang Katribu Legal Diaries. Muli ang Kalingang Katribu Legal Diaries at syempre kasama pa rin natin si Attorney Alfred Campagnano. Alright, Attorney, tribunal na tayo. Ito, alam nyo ba na ang Buckingham Palace sa United Kingdom is worth $2.9 billion, claiming the title of the most expensive house in the world. The palace is owned by the British royal family and is one of a number of lavish properties in their portfolio. So, ibig sabihin, yung Buckingham Palace pala, attorney, bahay lang pala. Worth 2.9 billion dollars. So, yung pa ganito, attorney, nabebenta ba yung ganyan? Yung mga ganyang klaseng tirahan?
It's a matter of a capacity to buy, on the part of, and of course, the willingness of the owners to sell. Ang isang masasabi ko dyan, ang sarap notaryuhan ng ganyang mga deeds of sale.
Oo nga, ang laking...
$1 billion, di ba?
Oo.
Yan.
Tanong, ibebenta ba ni Queen Elizabeth yan? Mukhang
But
hindi.
it's a matter of it's a matter of willingness to sell. So in the context of the Philippines, again, it's a matter of agreement. In fact, even if hindi siya in the market, nakakita ka lang talaga dyan, you may propose to buy a property, kausapin mo owner. Diba? If ganun talaga, baka naman willing ka, it's about the willingness to enter into a contract. Yan naman talaga lagi yung magiging issue sa mga ganyan. But I suppose ang nadagdag ko lang sa lavish nature of the tribunal fact, apparently, the Buckingham Palace is just a house for $2.9 billion na kung saan it's described in the tribunal as lavish. So I think ang mas nadagdag ko lang dyan is that's actually one of the criticisms in the why there are movements in UK
Tama, oo.
na gusto nilang wala na dapat. Kasi basically, meron kang parliament dyan, there's an existing government here, na sila talaga gumagawa ng laws, nag-implement, etc. Basically, the royal family is just a symbol of the traditions in the UK. So, it exists, sinusuporta, so basically it's the taxpayer who is supporting the royal family. So I'm not an expert kasi syempre hindi man ako British. But ang idea niyan is that's one of the criticisms for it. Kasi it's the taxpayers in UK who's basically supporting the lifestyle of the royal family. And for what? Supposedly to keep traditions. But again, hindi naman natin malaman yung culture ng UK because again, that's also a cultural thing, no? That's how they value it. So apparently, I think, I'm not sure of the current statistics, pero majority pa din naman ata ang sumusuporta sa kanila sa royal family and the existence of the royal family.
Yung Malacanang kaya, kung ibebenta, magkano kaya ang ano dyan?
Well, pwedeng, again, it's a matter of looking at the willingness to sell the property. No?
Okay.
Pero if you want to have a ballpark, siguro i-check mo kung nasaan kung saang local government yan. Check mo yung zonal value. Check mo yung fair market.
Kailangan malaman mo rin pala yung kung nasa bandang meron ba yung commercial value yung kalsada.
I-check mo yan eh.
Tama.
Yun yung determine to determine fair market value. But again, if in your problem is, the President Duterte, or through, of course, with the consent of government siguro, in general, wants to sell the Malacanang Palace, then they can offer it, they can try to offer or they can try to put a price as high as baka $2.9 billion din.
Pwede. Pwede.
But because again, in contracts, it's always trying to, meeting us of the mind. So kaya magkakaroon kayo ng negotiations on consideration, negotiation on terms, etc. So even if fair market value, sabihin natin 1M lang ang Malacanang Palace, for example. No? But if they want to sell it to you more than the fair market value, then expect na that is basically the terms that you're playing with in the negotiation. But in these kinds of discussions, syempre, hindi lang dapat yung between the two parties na nag-isip. Papag-uusapan din natin yung mga tax consequences niya. But again, that's a different issue altogether.
Alright. Okay, attorney, maraming salamat sa oras mo at kasi naubusan na tayo ng oras. So, any parting words bago tayo magtapos?
Just be, be safe. Magpabakuna ka.
Ayan. Oo, tama.
And in relation sa property, in relation to the topic at hand, then it's always to, be diligent as a buyer. You should always be diligent in making your purchases. So even if you have the right to rely, I would suggest you to go beyond that. And as owners of properties, then you should always monitor the status of the property. Kasi hindi mo alam, no? There are this, fraudulent activity.
Tama.
Kana lang, yung lupa mo, for example, sa QC, nakapangalan na to another person. So to avoid all the hassle or to avoid all the litigation that comes with trying to recover the property, it's always to manage your properties wisely.
Okay, alright. Maraming salamat, Attorney Alfred Campagnano. At sa mga nanonood sa atin na kapapasok lang, mapapanood nyo po ang replay ng Kalinging Katribu Legal Diaries sa aming mga social media accounts na Tribune Now, ang Facebook page ng Daily Tribune at syempre ang aming mga YouTube channels. Alright, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat at muli ako si Elmer Navarro Manuel. Magkita-kita po tayong muli sa susunod na Biyernes para sa isa pang edisyon ng Kalinging Katribu Legal Diaries.
po.